Welcome into the latest edition of the Sharps Report here on BettingPros.com. I'm your host, Matt Perrault. You guys probably know me from the Daily Juice podcast. This week, as we always do every week, we talk to pro gamblers, guys making bets every day, people in the media, people doing things behind the counter and in front of the counter. Our guest is Sean Lockhart, a.k.a. Papa Bear. If you've ever heard my radio show, there's a good chance you've heard Sean on giving picks every single week. It's going on 4 years now where he's been on my radio show doing stuff with me, and he is our guest this week for the Sharps Report. What's up, my friend? Thank you for being a part of this.
I'm happy to be on, coming off a big Raiders win here on Monday Night Football, so I'm in a great mood right now, Matt. You caught me at a good time.
Good. All right, so let's get into your background in your bio a little bit. How did you get into this? How long have you been involved in the sports gambling industry? We got a lot to get to. I want to get to Arizona, your home state that just went legal and everything happening over there. But first, your story. How did you get to where you are?
It's a pretty wild story. I never thought I was going to be, so involved in sports betting, but I've been gambling, sports betting my entire life, most of my adult life, I should say. Started off with poker as a young kid, playing poker, and then sports betting just kind of came naturally to me. I've played sports my whole life. I've been around sports my whole life. All my social peers, all my friends involved in sports, we've been betting basically our entire lives. And I was always kind of just the best at it because I just approach it very rationally. And then about 10 years ago, I started taking it a little bit more seriously. I built my bankroll up and started placing some rather large bets. I mean, I'm not the biggest bettor out there, but some large bets. And then 8 years ago, I got on social media. And all I did was, back then it was, the Vegas Daves. It was, Twitter was run by these guys who hit 90% and they always win. And I knew that wasn't possible. And so I gave a more reasonable approach. I just literally posted, and for free, for the first year on Twitter, I posted for free. I was kind of similar to what you're doing with the Daily Juice. Posted basically a year and a half, just every day, what I was betting, the exact amount, the exact juice, and then tracking it honestly, like giving 100% accurate portrayal of what it's like to sports bet. And I've done really well. I did really well. And I gained a large following, and I decided to kind of monetize it because I do spend a lot of time figuring out who I'm going to bet on. And it's a lot of emotion, a lot of passion. And I started the Papa Bear website, and now I became a tout. I prefer sports betting consultant, but I've been doing that now for 7 years. I know there's all kinds of guys popping up now, and now sports betting's legal, so it's everywhere now. But I've been in the dark alleys of social media, betting every day, and then recording my results the next day. That's all I've been doing. I'm just a bettor, just like you and anybody else out there. I bet probably a little bit more than the average bettor, but I'm not like the biggest bettor in the world. But I do bet a lot of money, and that's all I've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to what you call your Chris Palma bets and what that means here for folks that might not be aware of it. You and I have gone back and forth over the years under your term investing when it comes to what you do. But I do say that there is something to the value of your time. And I do think it's important because you do place online after the bets have been decided. You put your card up, and your subscribers would be able to call BS if you weren't actually putting up the accurate card that you're giving out. So I do think there is a lot to be said for the transparency that you try to present to the public, saying, look, and I've seen you do it. We're 3 days in a row. You're 1-4, you're 0-3, you're down 2,000, you're down $3,000, whatever you might be. And then you celebrate your victories. And I guess what's that been like when you go through it and you want to be transparent and you're having to share that, look, things aren't great right now?
Man, I think that's also why a lot of my customers stick around, a lot of my long-term clients, because I the mental gymnastics of dealing with losing. That's what sports betting is the best in the world are going to win between 55 and 60% of the time. They're still losing 45% of the time, which is almost basically a coin flip 50% of the time. So you have to be able to deal with the winning just as much as you deal with the losing. And I think that's really what separates successful sports bettors and guys that maybe let it become a problem, or it becomes dealing with the losing aspects and then not upping your bets and chasing. I've kept my same exact units now for 8 years. I always say, like, even if you and me win the Circa and I get a big share of $1 million, I'll still be betting $500 a game and $2,000 on my big games. I don't think I'm going to put 10 or 20 grand on a game because it's just not comfortable for me. I also got a family and kids, and it's just, I've always, I've paid my mortgage every month. I gamble responsibly. And I think that's what draws people to do.
I would agree with that. And for those of you who are Daily Juice listeners, Sean is my partner. You guys, I have a Daily
Ooh.
Juice team, and Sean is my partner for the Circa Million. So we went 4-1 week number one for the Circa Million. So we got off to a pretty good start, and long way to go for us to even be in consideration for that quarter pole. But 4-1 puts us at least into the conversation. You got to go 4-1 basically. To win a quarter pole, you got to go basically 5-0 two times and 4-1 two times, and then you may
If
be there.
we, yeah, but if we go 4-1 every week the rest of the way,
Oh,
we're gonna win. We're gonna win that.
yes,
So I'm just saying
yes,
we had a good
yes.
week one. We're on pace. We're on pace.
Right. Yeah. Not going to happen. But yes, we're off to a good start. Week 1 to week 2 is always the most difficult to trust your eyes as to what you have seen and what's not fake and what's real and everything else that's out there. But, I think one of the fun things about watching your life is because your family has expanded and your business has expanded. So that is kind of two forces going in different directions, right? Because your time you can only spend time doing one thing. You can't spend time doing both things. How has that gone being a guy who has a young family who now sports gambling in your state, which we'll get to in a second, but with sports gambling blowing up and more and more people learning about you and contacting you from different, new jurisdictions, new states, what's that process like of trying to do the time management?
Honestly, it's tough, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's three kids, and they're all under the age of three, too. I had twins, and now I have a baby girl that was just born. And I still watch a lot of football. I watch a lot of sports, but I don't get to. I used to go to casinos a lot. I used to come visit you in Vegas all the time. In my younger days, I'd be in Vegas 10, 12 times a year just because I love Vegas. But
Right.
it's not an option anymore, and it is. But I think it's just I'm maturing in my life, and my kids are my world. So it is like you have your sports betting, and then that is still very important in my life, but it's not the most important anymore, I would say. But it's
Say that
tough, man.
again. Say that
It,
again. Sports betting is not the most important thing in your life.
it is, and I know a lot of gamblers. It is, and there are. I know you have your wife and your child as well, and but the majority of gamblers, I would say, they're male and
Mm.
probably single, and it is like their number one hobby, and their happiness is determined by it. I don't. Most of my clients are not that. I think most of my
Mm.
clients are generally guys who work 9 to 5s, have families, and they pay for my. They just want picks, and they want reliable picks every day, posted well in advance with lines they can access. And I've been giving them that for 8 years now. So that is kind of my clientele. But as you know, I even saw who's that Dink guy replied to one of your Twitter things that there's a lot of negativity in sports betting. A lot of negative guys. You guys like, hey, what are you like? What's so bad? Like why? And that's just it comes with the gambling world. I've been dealing with it now for 8 years. Twitter's gotten a lot better with trolls and
Mm.
negative accounts that you could just. I've always just blocked and moved on. I've never responded. That's always the way I've been. Like I'm a positive guy. If you're not going to interact with me positive, then I could block you. We can move on. That's how I've always dealt with it.
It's smart. I mean, it's good for mental health too. And I think what's interesting
Mm.
about the people who are coming into this space, and not to say I've been in this space for all that long, but I'm doing it now for 6 years, and it's been a little easier for me to be around some very sharp and smart people and kind of pick their brain, ask them, and listen to what they have said to me about, okay, the picks generally, okay, they're going to go 55%. You're going to be somewhere in that range. The best people in the globe are going to go 57, 58, and that 3% margin is what separates a professional gambler from a novice. And just understand that and do your homework, do your work, but realize that the average person has no bleeping idea any of that, and they're just going to be jerks because you lose 5 games in a row. Okay, but then what happens when you turn around and you win 5 games in a row? All of a sudden you're a hero, but you're at least what I think in the back of my mind when I'm getting like pats on the back, I'm like, yeah, but you're the same person that was saying this about me a week ago when I was going 1-8 and that I sucked and I couldn't bet anything right and correct. So like, it's the people who have been there with you for a long time. I think you kind of understand quickly after talking to someone who either trails you or subscribes to your picks or whatever, that they either get it or they don't. Do you feel that way, that like there's a definite difference between the person that is just there for the quick fix versus somebody who's with you long term?
Oh, totally. And I know now you've been in the space now with your podcast as well, and you are kind of the hero. You're the Robin Hood because you give your workout for free. And I know,
Right.
but you're paid your radio persona. That is your
Yeah.
job, and that's how you earn your money. And but I was that for a year, and I remember that. You get a lot of positive reinforcement, but then when you kind of go professional and you're paid for it, yeah, like when you're losing, the voices will be there. But when you're winning, you're just kind of doing your job. No one really says anything. But
Right.
that's something I've come to. in my maturation like a couple of years ago, some of the trolls could get to me, but now it's just like, I don't care. Right. I have all these clients, I have more clients than I've ever had,
Mm.
and they're happy with the product. And those are the guys I want to talk to. And those are the guys that get it. Of course, I have new members come on, and I know we're going to get to it, that Arizona legalized it. So there are a lot of new people sports betting. But I'm always down to have that conversation. I'm always honest with people. And I think that's why they choose my services. DMs are always open especially for clients,
Mm.
asking about cold streaks, about hot streaks, what I'm doing, what I'm thinking. And you figure out, and then I think you kind of train, and I know you're training your listeners the same way, that it's not, the Vegas Dave, 90%, we're going to get rich right now.
No.
I've had seasons where we have gotten rich. I've had seasons where 19 NFL games in a row. That's what we won. It was crazy. Like
Wow.
there are seasons you can get rich. Or I had last year where I maybe won a couple units in football. It was barely anything. And
Yep.
that's just year to year. I can't promise anything, but I know football and college hoops are my best sports. And right now we're off to a hot start in football. So I'm digging it right now.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about your process as to, without giving away the secret sauce, if you will, about how you identify games that you like to bet on. Are you somebody that likes to get involved with very public games? Do you look for games that are off the beaten path? Do you look for games like you're a Pac-12 guy? Do you look for games involving teams you've seen, Like, how do you determine, where do you narrow it down? Because you can't bet the board. Where does your eye naturally go when it comes to finding games to break down?
Yeah, I bet a lot of Pac-12 games, because I just feel I've been watching that conference. It's late, it's on the West Coast. I feel like I have a bigger edge. Not that bookmakers fall asleep on it by any means, but I think there are some East Coast guys that generally don't even watch these teams play, especially when it even comes to college basketball, these late night games. So I do bet a lot of Pac-12 games. I rep my Arizona State shirt right here. I bet against them. I know I've come on your show a couple times and actually bet against them because you know your team better than anybody. I really do
True.
believe that. The NFL is a bit easier because there's not as many teams, obviously, and it's a lot easier. And as you mentioned, I'm drawn not to fade the public, but I tend to short the market in a way. I try to think of the way that others are not thinking, and I'm not drawn anymore to all these sites release 90% of the monies or 90% of the money, but the ticket count and all, or trends. I don't really look at that, but just in my mind, I think like who the average bettor is going to bet on. And I talk to my buddies too, like who are now betting all the time, like a guy who works a 9 to 5, who does, hey, who are you betting this weekend? Of course, he wants to bet on, like the Yankees, the Packers, the Cowboys, these teams. And I look at those spots that they're playing a team that's very bad, but the line's a bit off, or the rate. I do look at spots that I think a lot of people are angles that a lot of people are not looking at. And that's generally how I bet, because I think the market is undervaluing it. So I think you get a couple points of value, and that's how you can get to that 56, 59% win percentage.
I'll give you a quick story as to how I screwed up tonight, because you just got to remind me. So here's what happens today. So I get an email every morning from FanDuel and DraftKings. They both send out their percentages. I don't use it for anything besides I look for numbers that are lopsided, because I'd like to see. Generally, I think those are both very public books. So if the numbers or if I'm kind of wishy-washy on a number, I'm going to think to myself, okay, if the public is heavy on one side, I'm generally going to go the other way. So I started to feel like the Ravens, and you and I talked a couple days prior, and I really liked the Raiders a lot at home, getting 4.5 points. And I was like, man, that's too many points. 4.5. I think the home atmosphere is going to be electric. I think the Raiders are going to be really hard to beat at Allegiant Stadium. And then the Josh Jacobs news comes out, and he's questionable with an illness. And I'm like, okay, how many other players could have the illness? The Raiders already had COVID run through their whole team last year. So I'm like, are we doing this again where the whole team's going to have a problem? Now, the team is generally vaccinated. So I thought, okay, maybe it's just a typical illness, nothing big. But I was really hesitant. And then the numbers started crashing. And I'm like, man, why is this number crashing? And then I saw DraftKings, they put out a statement, they put out their numbers, and 70% of the money was on the Raiders. So the number is crashing. The public is driving the number down. Well, what happened, and we don't know, I don't have confirmation for this, but they do it twice, in the morning and the afternoon. So I was heavily going, okay, let me get to 3, and then I'm taking the Ravens. So I couldn't see. I was waiting. I got busy. I had life, speaking of life, I had life creep up. And I'm like, okay, 3.5. I'm just going to take the Ravens. After I take the Ravens, DraftKings sends out another email. Everything had flipped. Now, was the first email accurate? I don't know. But 70% of the money came in on the Ravens, not the Raiders. If I had known that, I would have stuck with my original point of taking the Raiders at +4, 4.5. Instead, I laid the 3.5, and the outright win for the Raiders comes. So you're smart not to look at those numbers. That's a huge lesson. I always try to learn. I'm still learning every day about this, and that was a huge teaching lesson for myself about you know what? These books can't be trusted because some of this crap is just complete baloney.
No, I was there years ago too. It would be, oh, the sharps are on this side. This is the sharp side, and the money's coming in. Looking at and the numbers just kind of confuse you. And I think as I've gotten late and maturing in my betting process, I just break it down. I don't even look at trends, but I love getting. I had 4 on the Raiders because I released it this morning, so it was even before it fell even more. Even though the 4.5 was available probably earlier in the week, but getting above that 3, right? So when the teams did go to overtime, right? Like when you have that over 3 in overtime. There's very minimal outcomes that could hurt you. It's such a key number. And so I look at key numbers like that. And then the Ravens were just ravaged by injury. And then also I am taking more home field advantage this year because there's going to be big crowds. And you're in Vegas, that crowd was rocking, right? Like that is an advantage in football. I think that in college basketball, it's a huge advantage. In football, it's a huge advantage. So I am always looking, not just home dogs, but home teams with that home crowd getting above a key number. That seemed like a pretty easy bet for me. And then I block out the noise. I block out the FanDuel or any of the cover. Every site tries to send out. What is that?
Well,
what is that
here's the thing,
really
though.
Coming from?
But you did mention trends, right? So here's what the clincher for me as to why. One was the number, but secondly, I tend to fade trends like this. ESPN Stats and Information put out a trend this morning. So the Raiders covering just set the record for the single greatest underdog weekend in the Super Bowl era. 12-4. That's what the dogs went. It was 11-4 heading into the game. And I thought, you know what? That just screams, if there's money coming in on the Raiders, everyone in the public, they're just thinking that's going to cash. And no, they all went the other way, and they all bet the favorite. They bet the over and the favorite. The over I was on much bigger than I was on with the Ravens -3.5. But I said, okay, I'm going to fade that trend. Do you ever fade trends or do you ride trends?
So I used to. I mean, I used to be, or it's almost like you're at the roulette wheel, right? It's hit red 12 straight times. I would be more one to walk up and bet on black, right? Like I really would, because you just think the universe is going to even out.
I learned a big lesson on the probability of the roulette wheel. It means absolutely nothing.
It does.
Spin to spin means nothing.
And I take all those trends. It was a unique weekend. It was a legendary weekend, But I just looked at the Raiders and the Ravens, the two teams on the field. Nothing that happened this week mattered, right? It's just the Ravens and the Raiders. The Ravens were dealing with all those injuries. The Raiders had, home field and were getting points over a field goal. And it wasn't a big bet for me. It was a single unit play. But I also, you look at the other, you had the Saints, right? We had the Saints. Yeah. You were the one who talked to me in the Saints. And that, that ended up looking incredibly great. Like that was never in jeopardy.
It was funny. The number of DMs and text messages and people that wrote to me on because I had done so many interviews during the summer talking about the regular season wins for the Saints. And everyone I talked to, they would say, so what do you like? And I would be like, I like the Saints over 9.5 wins. And they were just like, why? And I would go through and explain my process. And then so out of the gate, I'm like, yeah, I got to be on the Saints +4. I mean, I like this team a lot. And this is, I thought the weather would be a factor. It was. And I thought that Green Bay not playing their starters at all during the preseason, I thought that would create kind of a problem against a top 5 defense in New Orleans. And it was. I mean, they were rusty. They weren't on the same page, and they were just like a half a step off with everything that they were able to do. And, that's just, and then we had Miami. We both agreed on Miami over New England with that. And that's another dog play. But going from week 1 to week 2, week 1, 12-4 dogs bark. What happens in week 2? We go in favorites?
So like I said, I probably won't. But what I do, week 2 is, I love week 2. I love week 2. It's overreaction week. So you look for the teams to take advantage of that. And I mean, I can think of so many. I mean, I think the Falcons are super bad. So I think the Eagles are a little high because the Eagles came out and looked really good. I kind of want to fade the Eagles. I don't think they're that good. Or like the Packers. I kind of want to stay away from them just because I think there is some mental gymnastics going on with Aaron Rodgers right now. But they're a team I probably will buy on if he ends up coming back. But they're just it's overreaction. That's what I had my first big bet in 65 days I took Wisconsin. I had Wisconsin on Saturday, right? So Wisconsin lost to Penn State. They had like 3 or 4 turnovers in the red zone when they were about to score against Penn State the week before. They're still a top 25 team, though. They have an elite defense. Their offense had some quirks, but they have that Mertz quarterback who's like the highest rated quarterback Wisconsin's ever had. So I laid the 26 against Eastern Michigan, a team I knew that had no defense. The funny part is they get up 27-0. Eastern Michigan has 1 first down the whole game. They had 1 first down. Wisconsin puts in a backup quarterback. They give up a pick 6. I'm not covering all of a sudden. But then Wisconsin came down, marched down the field, scored, covered. But literally, it was at halftime, it was the biggest rushing differential in college history since 2016, the San Diego State game. Like Wisconsin was dominating. But it was overreaction. So I took advantage of week 2. People think, oh, this Wisconsin offense stinks. Wisconsin stinks. And they came out and they took care of business against Eastern Michigan, covered for me.
Yeah, I got burned on that because I was expecting Iowa State to have that exact storyline, and Iowa State.
I was on Iowa State too. Iowa State too. That's a rivalry game. That's why I should have gotten involved in that. I don't regret it, but yeah, it's a rivalry game, and weird things
Ferentz
happen.
just owns Campbell. He just owns him. It's just it's father versus boy. It's coach versus students. It's unbelievable to watch just how easily Iowa is winning these games with, I think there'll be more players drafted off that Iowa State team than the Iowa team, but it doesn't matter. I mean, the offensive numbers for Iowa were absolutely pathetic, and yet they won the game going away. It's just like,
so we can fade Iowa. Look at fade.
Yeah,
Iowa.
Well, I have. I mean, I'm on under 8.5 wins for Iowa. So I had them losing to Indiana and losing to Iowa State. So now they're 2-0. So now I need them to fall on their face. And I call them 8-4 Ferentz. It's 8.5 wins. It's 8 wins is what they do. So I need them to lose 4 football games now. And they've got some games where typically Iowa will overlook an opponent and get beat. So that's what I need out of the Big Ten for Iowa, for them to lose to like a Purdue or lose to a Northwestern or lose to somebody that they're not supposed to lose to coming up here in the next couple of weeks.
The win total might not get there, but I'm talking like week 3, week 4. That lines, the market's going to be super high on them, and the number might be a little high. I haven't looked yet quite at what, but I would probably be a team I'd be looking at selling here in the next couple of weeks for sure if you pick the right spot.
So what do you do with Alabama, Florida? Like what with a game like that? Okay, because Alabama is a machine. Yeah. They're a first half machine. They're on the road in the swamp with a top 11 team in Florida, where in Vegas, this is the game why people were taking the plus. I think it was 50-1, I think, on Florida to win the national championship. This is the game. And whether you like Emory Jones or not, I mean, if they beat they beat Alabama, Florida's in the conversation to win it all. Do you just watch the game and avoid, big ticket, high volume games, or do you get involved because your subscribers are probably going to want to get involved?
They will want to get involved. But I mean, we'll have plenty of action on college football. But this is probably a game I'm probably going to avoid. I just don't have I don't like to bet against Alabama. I really don't. I don't think, I know the market, everyone wants to bet on Bama, and there's a lot of money that goes in on Bama every week. And usually that would be something I would look to get on the other side of. But man, that's why I like NFL football. Everyone's professionals. It's kind of an even playing field. Alabama is just like these NFL stud 5-star recruits at every single position. Second string guys still coming in. Florida has the talent to play with them, but I would look to bet Florida, but I just have a general, during this Saban era, I don't get behind that Alabama train, and it's saved me some money. It really has, because usually I want to fade that, and I'm not getting behind.
Yeah, first half Florida will maybe a look, or first half Alabama maybe a look. I don't know yet, but I don't know if I want to get involved with the full game. But first half Alabama against Miami cashed. Game for Miami cashed. I didn't touch Alabama last week because the number was ridiculous against Mercer, and I don't think they covered it actually. I don't think they covered last week, but
they never cover that second game against some weird employee. They literally, I think it's been like, that's a trend too. That's Saban playing that. But it's still like, would I ever want to take Mercer against Alabama? Oh my God, that's awful.
That sounds crazy. That's a sweat I'd want to avoid. I don't want to get near that. But have you ever, and this is something that I've decided to try to do week to week now, I'm going to try to predict the line for the Circa just to get not that I have a model. I'm not saying I have a model. I'm just going to go ahead and say, what would I set the line at just to see what Circa comes in and sets the line at. Do you ever get involved with that where you start to project what you think the number is and then the number winds up coming out something different?
Oh yeah. In NFL every week, I literally still do it with like a pad and paper. And I have a spreadsheet nerd, I call him. He's been good, solid over the years. He like actually has mathematical formulas. And, I don't claim that's not me. I don't have the brain to do that. But he has shown an edge that like a bit sharper numbers than the actual market says. But he puts a number out for every single game on the board. So it's like up to me to like, how do I use that information? But yes, going back to, I do in my own mind, especially with the NFL, look at the games, right after Sunday, before, Sunday night, and just kind of jot down what I think just off the top of my head. And it does. But then when I see the lines, when I see like how much they're either off, usually they're pretty close, but maybe why I was off, or it's probably a game I'm going to look at betting. And that's always been something I've done. And I would recommend for everyone listening and for you to do it as well. Just literally write down what you think the line's going to be before it even comes out. Because then it's unbiased before you even like listen to anyone's podcast or listen to anyone else's bets. Do what you think and see what happens.
I want to do it for the circa because the circa number tries to anticipate where the number will be, not where the number is. What do you think the circa number is going to be for the Jets and the Patriots this weekend?
Oh, see,
we tape this on Monday. It drops on Wednesday. Circa numbers come out Thursday morning. FYI.
Yeah, I think that number is going to climb, and I agree with it. I think the Jets. We had the Panthers. You weren't the biggest Darnold fan, but they got a little hairy there at the end. They were up 16-0.
Jets suck. Jets suck.
It's a rookie court. They're starting too many rookies. They also have like a brand new coach. I mean, I think they're going to be better than the worst Jets teams, but they're not. Everyone got so hyped up about this Wilson kid, and he still is a rookie, and they're starting tons of young talent.
And there was no Crowder. I mean, to be fair, there was no Jameson Crowder
best receiver,
on the field.
Yeah,
so
the best receiver.
To be fair, that's one reason why their offense struggled mightily.
So I think that probably gets up to 4.5. I don't
5.5 now.
I saw it open 3. Yeah.
Open at 3, bet to 5.5. I think the circuit number is going to be 6.5.
Really?
And I think the Jets are live. I may fade my team in back-to-back weeks.
You have no faith in Mac Jones.
I love Mac Jones. No. I love Mac Jones. I know what the Patriots are going to do. The Patriots, everybody who was talking about Mac Jones to be the offensive rookie of the year have not watched the Patriots. Go back to the year 2000. What happened in the first game that Brady played? They do not throw the football. They are not going to allow their rookie quarterback to beat them. Everything will be dink and dunk. Everything was to the tight ends. Everything was within 8 yards of the line of scrimmage. They're going to run the ball a ton and throw short passes, and they're not going to throw deep balls much at all with Mac Jones and ride the defense, because the defense, I think, is going to be a big problem this year in the NFL. So I think the Patriots are going to win the vast majority of their games by 6 points or less this season. That's why I'd say the Jets are live.
I like that. You know your team better than anyone else. That's why I always do rely on you on some Patriots takes. And I would agree that if they do win, it's going to be like a field goal or it's going to be a close game. So I kind of
on the road, first road start in the kid's career. Like the Jets have been kind of a house of horrors. I don't think the Jets are good, but from week 1 to week 2, I would expect Wilson to take a big step forward. But the Patriots secondary can be had, as we saw Tua play pretty well, because the best secondary guy for the Patriots is not out there, and Stephon Gilmore. So the Patriots are going to be better when they get Gilmore back in the later part of the year. But right now, I would think Zach Wilson at home. Crowder comes back. I don't know, man. I'm just.
I'm
6.5.
I'm sold. If that number creeps up 6.5, if it touches 7, but 6.5 seems a little more reasonable. I think the Jets could work their way into.
That's the circa. No, great. Remember, everybody, the circa numbers are stagnant. They don't move. That the book, what Circa tries to do is anticipate where the number is going to close. So it's 5.5. They may just put it at 6.5 because they think the number is going to go that direction, or they've got numbers that tell them that there's indicators that the number is going to wind up going there because the public's going to be all over the Patriots, which I understand why they would be. But I mean, just the person, I don't know if I'd bet it, but Circa picks are different than gambling. And for a Circa pick, I think the Jets might be interesting to kind of take a look at it for this coming year. All right, let's talk about Arizona here a little bit, because your home state has legalized. Excuse me. What does that do for your business? What has that done? And what have you seen just in the past? Because I talked about it on my radio show this week. There were 271,000 accounts created in the first 4 days. There were 6.1 million bets placed in the first 4 days in Arizona. Are you seeing like a ton of ads? Are people calling you all over the place? Like, what's the vibe for you in Arizona going legal?
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's a day I've been waiting for quite some time. I love coming out of the darkness and all these. I used to always go to house parties and people ask what I do for a living, and I tell them, and then they like, wait, so you're a bookie? I'm like, no, I'm not a bookie. I give advice. And they're like, but sports betting is illegal. And it was looked, and now it's kind of coming, oh, that now I understand. And it's great. I mean, it's good for my business just because there are more bettors. I mean, I've already had people reach out. I've got a buddy who's a fireman. All the firemen at his local place bought a package, so they're all splitting it, getting down on my bets, and just more people are betting. So that is going to be good for my business, and it grows. It's just nice to have it being legal, and for me as well, it's good. I mean, I signed up. I think I have 6 brand new books I signed up for. I took, for, of course, every advantage I could. These $1,000 free bets they're offering. It's nuts.
How
but
much?
it's also,
How much of that is out there? How much is? Because I'm debating. How do I need to go to the?
but
I got to go to the dam. The dam's 45 minutes away. I can cross over and get in Arizona. And are the bonuses like worth it? Are they crazy? Are they just $100 sign-up bonuses? Like, what are you seeing from the advertisement that's out there right now for customer acquisition?
No, so I've got MGM and WinBet offered. If you deposit, you have to deposit 1,000, but you deposit 1,000, they do a risk-free. You could do a risk-free $1,000 bet. So
Wow.
like if you deposit 200, you can do a risk-free $200 bet, or you have to deposit what. But the thing I don't know if it's available for Las Vegas residents. So like you come over here because you have to sign up for an account. I mean, they needed my email address. I mean, my real address. So, but then
you can be living.
Vegas address.
It's where it's fine. It's absolutely okay. You just have to be in the state when you place the wager.
Well, then
where
you
live.
come over.
Yeah, where you live doesn't matter. Same thing in New Jersey. It's the same. It's geo-targeted to where you are, not where you live. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive in there on like a Wednesday or Thursday, and then make my wagers for college football and the in the Thursday night football game, and then just drive back and just make. And then when it's time, because you're allowed to pull money out, you just can't put money in from a different state. So I can pull if I win, I can pull money out. I just can't go like if it's a rollover situation where it's okay. It's they deposit match oftentimes. You got to read the fine print. The rollover is 200. You got to roll over like 5-10 times before you can take the money out. But you can get the sign up bonus, and if it's a free bet, free roll, then you can just pull it out. You win it and you pull it out, and it's totally. I can do it from a different state.
Well, then you got to get MGM, WinBet right off the bat. Those are the big dog ones. FanDuel and DraftKings, they have like 125. They have all these like bonus. Yeah, those are more for like a small. Not that's generally I'm looking at placing, but I like it because I have 6 new books and I can number shop. I get better now. I have access to better numbers. I can literally look across the board at where am I going to put my money down. So it's phenomenal for me to at least just getting a better number. And I don't think, I bet 500 a game. I know a lot of these guys they get banned, and there's always talk of, I've never had that experience, right? But it obviously just got legalized, so I'm new to it. But, I also I'm not just one of those guys standing in front of a screen all day, chasing steam and then trying to middle everything and just like spending 24 hours, trying to beat the books, so I don't think I'll get banned by any means, but I love it.
For me, it's all about betting the other side, and that's where I really I want to see what happens when I do this. And I'm going to be honest, and I'll be very, very vocal about doing this. Is I'm going to go, if somebody will give me a $1,000 free wager, I'm going to bet both sides of the same game, and I'm just going to see what hits. And I'm just going to go ahead, like, whatever you give me, I'm going to come in and I'm going to bet. You give me $1,000, I'm going to bet $1,000 on both sides, and that got Joey Knish, the sports gambler, kicked out of Barstool Sports for doing that. Yeah. And so I'm going to test the limits right out of the gate. I want to test these books and see what these books are going to do, because they're all about customer acquisition. And if you are, okay, that means I can do 2 bets of the same game and you can't say no. So I'm going to be very curious to see, because I've seen it in other states where people have tried to do this, where they've tried to bet both sides of the same game, and they will take the cash, but they won't take the cash match bet. So you got to bet first with their money and then come back with your money, because you already have their money in play. And if they ban that money that's yours, okay, fine. They can just say, we're not taking that extra $1,000. Well, that's fine. Their money's in play and not your money's in play. But that's how I'm going to attack it when I do it. And I want to open up 6 apps like you do, and I'm just going to fire on games I like and then fire on both sides and see who pays me.
All right. I mean, that's especially if you're coming over here for I'm trying to
Yeah,
be
they
friends with
banned
these
me. What do
folks.
I
Like
care? I don't live in
I'm
Arizona. So like you live there. So like you don't want to get banned from books. They banned me. I don't care. All right. So I just won't go drive to Arizona anymore. That's fine. That's what I'm going to do. But
it's
that I
free
think,
money.
yeah, it's free
I
money. And I
understand.
think attacking the books, if they give you a free opportunity and a free money, attack them and use it against them. And it's a race to the bottom. And I think you guys in Arizona are going to see that it's a race to the bottom. But for the most part, while they're doing it, let's take advantage of it. Like they make it available. Let's take advantage of it.
No, I just can't wait. They still haven't opened the actual sports books themselves in these casinos yet, but that's
Oh,
what I
really?
can't wait for. Yeah, like the environment and watching these, like getting a paper ticket. I know you're
Right.
anti-paper ticket, but man, that's what I'm still kind of excited for. But yeah, I've got all these
How
apps and putting the
how
bets down.
hard is it to do the paperwork for the apps? How long did it take you to sign up for all six?
Some were harder than others, or they're working bugs out too. Like MGM, I said
Okay.
MGM didn't think I was in the United States for a while. Or also like WinBet I had to almost send them like one of my house bills, like a water bill, or to prove I lived at my address. But then like a week later, they just sent me like because I'm a Win member at the Vegas. They're like, oh,
Okay.
we found you. You don't worry about that previous email. You're already registered. You're fine to go. So they're just kind of like off the seat of their pants what's going on right now. It's
Yeah.
a wild, wild west out here. So, but I have no problem now. I have 6 accounts. They're all set up. And I bet on all 6 of them, and it's worked. So, but it did take some time. It does take some time.
Any
That's why I'm kind of
exotic
worried.
books? Anybody
So
that's just for Arizona that you've seen?
I know that Betfred company. They're
Yep.
coming here, aren't they? So I
They're
haven't seen
open.
them
Yeah.
yet.
Betfred's open. I mean, they're not really exotic. They're huge. They're monster in
Mm.
England, and they're open now in 3 other states in America. Arizona will be their fourth. They'll be in Nevada very soon for their fifth. But I mean, like books you'd never even heard of before that you're seeing open up. Because I think there's 12 different licenses. I think maybe that number is wrong, but I know there's a couple of them I'd never heard of that I thought might have to get real aggressive with their
Yeah.
offers and give you something really juicy. Because going up against DraftKings and FanDuel, I mean, how often are you seeing DraftKings and FanDuel ads on your TV?
It's every on my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter. It's ever on TV. It's ever all my buddies are. It's overload, but you can understand why. It's like it's a gold rush in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, you got to maybe shoot me some of these weird books too, because I'm definitely I got 6. I'll go up to 12. It is a lot though. It's a bit overwhelming at times logging into all these apps to look at numbers.
Oh,
They
without a doubt.
almost need like somebody needs to come out with like an app or a software
Well,
that you
I
can
mean,
see
okay,
all the
so I
lines
can give
move.
you, I'll plug the company for a second. If you go to bettingpros.com, bettingpros.com lists all the applications, basically in all the books, and most of them are going to be legal in your jurisdiction. It doesn't work well for Vegas, but because most of the books they list are not live in Vegas. But like, because the BetMGM number you get in Arizona is not the same number I get.
Exactly.
You get the Michigan number, you get the New Jersey
Yeah.
number. They split the company in two. So there's BetMGM Nevada and there's BetMGM everywhere else. So when you go to bettingpros.com, they'll list the live number for it's under NFL. Just click on odds and it'll list all the books that they've got that are outside of Nevada. They don't have Nevada books, but they've got books that will be in your state. So you can see the number and shop it all in one place. And I've used it a lot myself just to look around to different states. And, if I'm going to bet an Oregon game, it's got the Oregon lottery numbers up there. And I'm always curious, just like how crazy are Duck fans going and like how high that number's always out of whack. So I want to go and say, okay, how far are Duck fans getting involved? I think they were the only board I think they were minus 13 when that game kicked against Ohio State. Everybody else is at 14.5. So they were already, if you liked Ohio State, betting it in Oregon would have been beneficial if you want to go up there. They lost outright, but
it's useful information. I mean, that's
yeah.
I used to use Don's Best all the time, but now I've kind of moved on from that. But if I was younger, unmarried without kids, like I always had an idea. We travel around, go to Oregon, and bet again, like put a large sums of money against those local teams at these local books that are just overwhelmed with hometown money.
Well, that's happening soon. Yeah. And I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting to see if they don't remove the Wire Act. I think that will happen because I know of people in Vegas who have syndicates for people who are in Chicago for Illinois and are in New Jersey for New Jersey lines and New Jersey books. So that half a point, as we all know, numbers matter.
Huge.
And if you have a half a point that's off for whatever reason, and that number is at FanDuel or that number is in New Jersey for a split second, the dips, and you're in the right place, you can come in and bang it hard. And you can get take advantage of it. So yeah, I mean, I think that's regional bias is going to be just a huge deal. I want to ask you about Arizona State here for a second because you were on the field this past weekend, correct?
Mm-hmm. They didn't know they let like a big pro gambler on the field. I'm pretty sure.
Right. Which that was kind of fun. Which is why I'm asking. And it's kind of interesting. Like that picture you posted. Anybody would be like, "Hey."
There's a couple of people recognize. Like, hey, Papa Bear. I'm like, but no, it's one of my buddies, well connected with some boosters, and even like get the field passes is. You got to donate a lot of money to that school, but just through social networking and my buddies and stuff, I get some good tickets and good field passes and up in the suite.
I warned you about UNLV, though. You didn't want to listen to me about UNLV.
The first drive, they threw Jane Daniels threw an interception in the end zone. And immediately I was like, that is not going to be good for the 35. And they ended up with that. I think they still won by 28, so I think it really did come into play. And yeah, I'm glad you talked me off the big bet on my Sun Devils. UNLV is one of the worst teams that in football, though, still. But yeah, winning by 28 or 35, there's no point. Yeah,
I'm really scrappy. Iowa State fans are coming.
They impressed me a little bit.
Iowa State's coming here this weekend, and I used to cover them, so I have like all people coming in, and they're all going to be dropping. Every single one's hammering whatever number they see for Iowa State. They're dropping because they think UNLV is absolutely awful, and they are awful. However, they are still fighting hard and playing hard. And I think at home, I mean, if you're thinking about laying 35 points at home, I mean, just be very careful with that game coming up this weekend with Iowa State's offense. Everyone's like, oh, they're going to show up. This is the game they explode. Maybe, but I'm very tempted to be on UNLV this coming weekend with a crazy number again coming up here at home.
Yeah. I do like my Sun Devils, though, going to BYU. It's a big game. I think BYU's a bit down, though, and we still haven't shown our bet. We haven't come. We're 0-2 against the spread now too. So I like that part too. I think that line's a little low.
Do you like fading? Do you like fading teams off of huge emotional wins?
Yeah, I think there is an emotional letdown. Just as when I mean
BYU beats. I mean, I was on BYU plus
rival,
7 in on Moneyline last week, and I liked them to win that game outright, and they did. And I think Arizona State's going to be a huge problem for them to get back up again, to take on another Pac-12 school immediately after a monster because they beat Arizona, then they beat Arizona, they beat Utah, and now Arizona State again. It's their third straight Pac-12 game. Everyone thinks they're great. They're walking around campus. We beat Utah. Here we go. And then I think your Arizona State Sun Devils are live to win that game outright.
I think there's a lot of people that agree with you too, as I've seen that early number get steamed up a bit. But yeah, Arizona and Utah are not on the level of Arizona State in the Pac-12 right now, in the Pac-12 South. Arizona State is a complete great team. I think we worked out some of the kinks too as well in these 2 warm-up games. Going to Provo is always a very tough place to play, and BYU is scrappy. They're super scrappy, but there is the emotion. Not their Super Bowl, but I mean they hadn't beat that Utah team in years. It's a little tough. Yeah, it's a little tough to get back up. But they are at home. I think it'll be closer than most think. But yeah, I think we win that game by a touchdown. So I'll probably be on Arizona State this coming weekend.
Is BYU a home dog again? I haven't seen the line there.
Yeah, I think it was like 3.5. It's already up to, it was 3. It's already up to like 4.5. I think.
Interesting. Ooh, I don't like that. I do like Arizona State, but I don't like laying 4.5.
As long as it's below a touchdown, below 6. Anything below 6, I'm going to bet.
Yeah, it's a big game for Arizona State. They need to go and start to. And what do you make of Oregon in your Pac-12 as we sit here after week 2? What do you make of Oregon going 2-0 and winning at Ohio State?
I sent out a tweet after that game that the Pac-12 was back, baby. The Pac-12's back, and it was kind of some sarcasm, but I mean UCLA looks highly impressive with their quarterback. Oregon, I mean they didn't even have their future, top 3 potential number 1 pick, and they still went to Ohio State. I kind of thought though it was more beating Ohio State with a freshman quarterback that is not probably as good as the Ohio State that national Final Four last year with Fields and
winning in Columbus. Second year in his life. Everyone's putting CJ Stroud. They're like he should be Justin. Like Justin Fields started at Georgia, guys. Like he played in the SEC, then he went to Ohio State. Like he had time to season and get ready. CJ Stroud's got 2 more years after this before he could play in the NFL. Like this kid's not. He's gonna be fine. It's just that he could have some growing pains, and he did against that Oregon defense and the Oregon offense. My goodness. that was just a clinic in RPO execution against Ohio State's D.
But Ohio State's defense is not like Alabama's defense or Georgia's defense. Like I just don't see Oregon up on that level quite yet. But I'm hoping USC, they fired Houghton. I think if they get somebody big in there, because USC is the one that needs to return to.
Yeah,
that was the last powerhouse the Pac-12 really had when they were legitimately the best team in the country for multiple years. And I think that is the program that needs to do it.
Do you remember this? Well, I was talking about this today on my show. We couldn't come up with it. Can you think of the last time in October or later that a Pac-12 game, conference game, had national championship implications to it?
Geez, it's such an insult, but no, you're right. That is
because here's the game. The game is on October 23rd. UCLA hosting Oregon. That game, if both teams run the table, has monster national championship implications. Now, the week before, UCLA is at Washington. Ruh-roh. You got to win that game. Okay, that's not going to be easy to do, to go up there and win. But if they're able to go up to Washington in Seattle and beat Washington, who's already they lost to Montana already. So how do they look? If UCLA can be undefeated, because I think Oregon's going to be undefeated when they go to UCLA. Even one loss for UCLA may still have some pretty big implications. But if both teams are undefeated, both teams are in the top 10, I'm going to go to that game. I've not gone to a college game in a long time. I'm going to go to LA. I met a couple of guys at the wedding outside over the weekend, and we were like, okay, both teams are undefeated. We're going to that game because I love Chip Kelly. I'm 2-0 betting on UCLA this year. I think that UCLA team is legit, and I think Oregon is good, not great. But, man, if UCLA were in the postseason, we're in the playoffs, I mean, talk about making everyone shut up and be quiet after all the negative stuff with Chip Kelly over the years at UCLA.
No, I'd love it. I mean, I even prefer to go to college games, actually, like attend college games live than pro games. Also, because I like to watch all Sunday's games. I don't want to be stuck just watching one game. But
pageantry is way beyond college.
Oh yeah, you got the co-eds, you got the passion, and it's funny. I run into literally 20 to 30 people I know from college, and it's like a homecoming. But man, that would be a great game. But don't sleep on my Sun Devils, man. I'm telling you. I think we could beat UCLA for sure.
National championship?
No, we can't compete with the Bamas and Georgias. But if we go to the Rose Bowl, all I want is a Rose Bowl. That's what I want right now. Build a program.
Isn't Herm getting fired?
He might be. That's why this is the last year. This is our last chance. But it is the most talented defense we've had. And Jaden Daniels, another year of maturity. But I always get a little overhyped about Arizona State. So we'll take it one game at a time.
You talked me into that bet. I'm going to be on Arizona State for this weekend. I like fading teams off of big emotional wins, and I'm almost getting close to fading Iowa for a third straight week and see what happens if I do that. Just keep on betting them and keep on losing, and just keep on betting against Iowa after their win over. I just don't know how big of an emotional win that really was for Iowa. It was more of expected for Iowa to beat Iowa State. Utah losing to BYU was not as near as the accepted or expected outcome for that game. All right, for people who want to follow you, that want to get in touch with you about what you're doing, give out some information. Where can folks find you?
Yep, I'm on Twitter at the real Papa Bear, D-A. Real P-A Bear, Papa Bear. But yeah, every day I post my exact results. It's been a great start to the football season. As you know, we're started good in the circa, but also with my college bets as well. But football is my most profitable sport. Like I said in the beginning, if I just bet football and college basketball, I'd probably retire a rich man. But I love gambling, I love betting, so that's generally not the case. But football season is the best time to be aboard, and hopefully it's my best season ever. It's definitely off to one of the best starts I've had for sure.
Very cool. You guys do me a favor, hit subscribe where you get this podcast. You guys can see video on YouTube as well for the Sharps Report each and every week. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and in the Discord channel. If you aren't in the Discord, there's a link below us here to get in, or you can go to bettingpros.com/chat to get into the Discord to get an invitation to come in. I post what Sean and I are going to play every week in the Circa. You actually see the ticket that I play. You see both tickets, the Daily Juice Circa play and I made an awful, egregious, stupid mistake when it was supposed to be pushing the bear when we signed up. That was last year's team name. And then I was talking to a dude from New England, and as I was signing up, he was talking to me, and I just didn't realize it until I had walked away and looked at the card, and I was like, oh, dude, I'm a dummy. And I put pushing the odds, just like I had a natural knee-jerk reaction. So the team name is pushing the odds, but it's supposed to be pushing the bear because it's the two of us together. So
it's all going to spend when we win the money. It's all going to spend the same. We'll get a photo of us clutch the big check, both you and me. Yeah. So it doesn't matter.
Let's hope. My friend, thank you for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.